In case you're already seeing this, I'm Susanne Wilson, and we are streaming from Zoom to YouTube.
And I'm Diane Calderon, streaming from YouTube with Susanne Wilson, the Carefree Medium and Intuition Educator. Welcome.
We're ready for our live stream to start. There we go. Well, that's interesting. I'm screen sharing and I have a black screen instead of what I want to play.
Ah, that is odd.
Oh,
there we go.
Okay. I believe that we're live to YouTube right now. We're on Zoom. And so let's get started to the special edition of Carefree and Conscious.
Okay.
Welcome to Carefree and Conscious, paranormal and profound authors with stunning true stories. If you like this type of content, be sure to subscribe. I'm your host, Susanne Wilson, the Carefree Medium and Intuition Educator. Today on Carefree and Conscious, E.S.P, extrasensory people, that's you. I'm going live with my colleague Diane Calderon. We're sharing our top tips for helping you awaken and utilize your gifts of intuition to meet life's challenges. And now, Carefree and Conscious Live, extrasensory people.
So welcome to Carefree and Conscious. Usually you see a video that was pre-recorded, and I never edit my guests, but I add an intro, an outro, and all that sort of thing. Make it very polished so that when it goes out to all of the listening platforms, people will stay tuned in and enjoy it. This is a little different. We're going to ask you to stay tuned into something much more casual. And I think you'll also find that this can be very, very useful to you if you open your heart to some ideas about how to be an extrasensory person. We wanted to go live because there's so much energy out there right now. We're recording this on January 20th, 2025. So if you're watching this or listening to this years into the future, I'm just going to remind you that this was Inauguration Day in the United States of America. And regardless of who you support or vote for, we all want the best for the country that we live in. And so we thought we would tap in to some of the energy right now and use it to open our hearts and share with you some tips. In fact, we have 5 top tips about how you can be an extrasensory person. And I want to note that you already are. You already are intuitive. It is simply a matter of allowing and having the knowledge to know what it is that you're empowering yourself to do, because the intuitive abilities come from the spirit world, that part of you that's always with spirit, but they work through the body. And so it's important for you to understand that there are some practices and tools that you can use and you can start using today, whether you're brand new at this or very, very experienced, it doesn't matter. And my guest is Diane Calderon. Diane is an author. She also works with me in Carefree Medium. And she and I co-teach as mentors in our own program to help people working in small groups. So you get personalized attention and one-on-ones to learn how to be the intuitive you, so that no matter what happens to you, you keep your frequency high and you are able to make good decisions with a heart space of more calm and peace. But we're not teaching a full class with you today. Rather, we're sharing some things that will get you going on your intuitive journey. So welcome, Diane. I'm glad that you're here and you have time to do this.
Thank you very much, Susanne, for inviting me to be your guest and your cohort in so many different adventures. We've done quite a bit. I've been with you for about 8 years now. And I know that prior to meeting you, I didn't think much about my own abilities to tune in and connect with spirit and build up my psychic side. And because of your mentorship, you've brought me a long way. So I know that if someone like me can learn how to tune in, most of us can, if not all of us can, with the right guidance and direction and mentorship. So thank you very much for bringing me to where I am today. I appreciate it.
I think our higher selves orchestrated our meeting and being friends and working together. It's far above our pay grades. You bring up an important point about how you didn't think that you would be working in an area of spiritual gifts. And I think a lot of people listening to this will see a little bit of themselves in the fact that they'll say, like, I'm a late bloomer to all of this woo stuff. And it really isn't woo stuff so much as being empowered. But there's typically there's something that happens in life for a lot of people, something that gets their attention, like a near-death experience, the transition of a beloved person or pet, and you want to know where they went, or some epiphany or strange experience that really wakes people up. Could you just share a little bit about yours that you wrote about?
Sure. Prior to about 2014, I was just, what I would consider an average person going on through life, doing my career and raising a family and getting ready for a retirement. And when the retirement came, I had some plans to travel and do a lot, visit family, et cetera, et cetera. Up to that point, I hadn't really studied anything about intuition or mediumship or psychic skills. I knew they were out there. I had a little knowledge about it, but it wasn't high on my priority list. But in early 2014, tragedy occurred, which changed my whole life. And what had happened is my son, I have one son, had been killed tragically in an accident, a hit and run. And his passing occurred at a very bad time because my husband was developing dementia. So I was going through an awful lot of change and wasn't sure where my life was going to go ahead of me. But my son's death really shook it up. The good thing is that he showed up as an energetic presence at the point that he died. It took me about 24 hours to understand what I had seen that night, sparkling lights in front of me. When I understood it after hearing about his loss, the next day I finally put two and two together and I knew that my son was fine. He was over in an afterlife and he was sending me a message that, hey, Mom, I'm okay. I'm here. Don't worry about me. It's all good. That message propelled me to delve into learning about the afterlife, about mediumship, about all things, I guess, spiritual. And I was able to embark on a journey that started with a lot of reading, watching whatever programs I stumbled into. Say, hey, Mom, I'm okay. I'm here. Don't worry about me. It's all good. That message propelled me to delve into learning about the afterlife, about mediumship, about all things, I guess, spiritual. And I was able to embark on a journey that started with a lot of reading, watching whatever programs I stumbled into. Say, hey, Mom, I'm okay. I'm here. Don't worry about me. It's all good.
That's a
That
YouTube
message
echo. If you can,
propelled me to delve
I don't know.
into learning
Hold
about
on.
the afterlife,
about mediumship, about all things, I guess, spiritual. And I was able to embark on a journey that started with a lot of reading, watching whatever program.
That's funny.
That was really odd. So I'm talking, and then I hear myself talking, and I'm like, okay, I hope this is a normal thing for YouTube. Otherwise, I would say, gee, is my son Matthew playing with things right now? Because he's known to do that. That's a new one.
Stranger things have happened, right?
Right, right.
Well, and for those of us who feel like we were born different, some of you may have parked your abilities because you just wanted to fit in, and that's my story. Mine is I could see colors and lights and spirits around people. And I was very fortunate to have a grandfather who got me, who understood it. And he was also a Protestant minister at the time. And he helped me realize you don't go around spouting off everything that you see and you'll get along better, because I was bullied in school as a child. I put away the abilities and just used them for fun until a near-death experience in 2007, where it felt like I couldn't shut them off. So I had to go to all these teachers and learn what to do. And then I realized I needed to devote myself to the work. So I just want to say, you just got this tiny little taste of Diane's story. If you want to learn more, definitely pick up her book, Living and Loving Life All Day, Every Day. And also go back in Carefree and Conscious. She's on one of my earliest episodes. But for now, we want to get down to the stuff that you can really use right now. And so we thought about it, and it's very difficult to come up with some quick tips for you to use to develop your intuition. But no matter how you're feeling about Inauguration Day, and I know people are going to listen to this years from now and go, oh, they did this on Inauguration Day. We want to make sure that you know that you have the power, that we, the people, no matter who's in power, I believe that we're it. We're the ones that hold the keys to our inner peace and to change and progress in our world, whether you're celebrating or you're sad, no matter what. And in fact, I've been known to say, it really doesn't matter who's president, prime minister, strongman, dictator, whatever, they're not in control of the universe. We are, as a collective. We go through temporary times of change. So if 4 years ago you were feeling super sad at inauguration time, just look at how you are now. Your life may have been impacted, but you can be an activist, whether you were more upset 4 years ago or more upset today in this time frame. That does not define you. There's nothing in this world that defines you. You define you. You have personal sovereignty, discernment. You can cultivate critical thinking skills, and you have intuition. Yes, you really do have intuition, but it can get buried under all of the daily stuff. So I think the first thing that we want to share with you is that you really want to have a daily practice. And so what I have here for you is just so that you don't have to write things down. A daily peace practice is what you want to have. And I called it a daily peace practice because I think 13 or 14 years ago, I recorded a 5-minute meditation called The Daily Peace that you can get free on my YouTube channel. It also gives you a link when you sign up for my newsletter, but it doesn't have to be my guided meditation for a daily peace practice. There are many ways that you can set up your day to be more aware of the signs that are being sent to you, to be more aware of guidance, paying attention to what is getting your attention. And for me, the daily piece is this. I do use that guided meditation, which people will tell me after a few times they have it memorized. And I'm like, that's cool, but you can use your own words too. But when I first wake up in the morning, my practice is first off, I ask myself, where was I last night? And I close my eyes before I'm out of that hypnagogic state, which is that state where, Diane, it's like you're kind of coasting between awake and asleep, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then I want to see, did I astral travel last night? Did I dream something important that I need to think about? And then I'm thankful I'm alive. I'm here. Give me my work to do, make my lessons as pleasant as possible or as easy as possible. And I know it doesn't always work that way, which is fine, but I'm going to ask anyway. And then I ask, what do I need to know today? What I need to know today. And from doing that every single day, an image, a vision, some words will pop into my head, some heads up about something, or even a person will come into my mind. And I know that person's going through something or getting good news, bad news, whatever, but I'll pay attention to that. And then another thing that I use is this different, not like mantras and not necessarily affirmations or intentions. But one of my first teachers, a guy named Alan Arcieri in Cape Coral, Florida, said, use me as your instrument, O Lord. I am honored to be of service. Now, I don't wake up every morning thinking I want to be that instrument. There are days where that doesn't even pop into my head. I just want to get through the day. But I have noticed that when I make a habit of use me as your instrument, I'm honored to be of service, give me work to do and resources to do it, that a lot of times some magical things happen. Of course, there's prayer and meditation. I thought if we say, just pray and meditate, everybody's going to tune out right away and not get to some of the real good stuff that we've got going. You already know about prayer and meditation. But I also want to say that part of the daily piece is if you can't meditate, you feel like I can't meditate, which is not really true because meditation is mindfulness. Go for a walk, count your breaths, anything that puts you into the present moment that takes you out of what we all call monkey mind is great for you. I do believe in intention setting and affirmations, but I also want to tell you, I think about a daily practice as, when people say, what's the best thing for me to do every single day? I once had an insurance agent for life insurance say, when my clients ask me what's the best life insurance policy for me to get for my family, that he would say, the one that you'll keep in force. If you buy too much or you take on too much and say, I'm going to keep this in force and you won't do it, that's not the best policy. So same thing here. Set up your daily practice to take as much time or as little time as you need it to take every day. And make sure it comes from you, that it comes from your heart, and that it's not something that somebody else gave you and you're just repeating it. Repeating what somebody else gave you is a great start, but make it yours, make it from the heart. And so that's my daily practice. How about you, Diane?
My daily practice is a little bit like yours. I get up and first thing I do is think about what did I just dream? Can I recall it? And did it have any significance with what's going on in my life now, or will it have an importance later? Don't remember every dream, but sometimes they come in and it's kind of mind blowing. But then I go into, okay, here I am, sit up. Thank you for another day, because it is a gratefulness I have to be able to wake up every day and be in good health and, just continuing with living my life. I do a little prayer similar to your daily piece and ask for protection and that the highest good be served. And I've started doing what you had suggested. What do I need to know today? And just let it go and see what happens during the day. So basically, I just start out with a pretty good feeling every day and expectations that things are going to be fine. And they usually turn out well. I rarely have a bad day. So that's how I get started.
Yeah, I don't have that grumpy grumpster feeling in the morning, even when I know it's going to be a heavy day. And I think maybe it's because we know we're going to start in a good way. I'm not saying that I don't get grumpy, but it's not first thing in the morning anyway. Okay, well, I'll have you go first on the next one.
Mhm.
Second,
Okay,
journaling.
a second, journaling. Journaling is quite important. I learned early on because I was journaling at the time my son had transitioned. And because I was going through a lot in life, it was important for me to write things down because it was a way to express some of what I was going through. And journaling has then become a daily practice for me. I always sit down and write down something in that journal, and it could be an experience that I've had that was good. It could be something that I had some troubles with. It could be some thoughts about where my life is headed. It could be any one of a dozen things. But one of the more important things I found in journaling is when I have had something that has happened that I feel is of a spiritual nature, has lifted me up, or maybe has caused me a little concern, I like to write it down in the journal because who knows, later on, it helps when I'm going back through things I've written to see what might have been going on in my life a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, or whatever. And then I can kind of connect the dots and see where my growth has gone and maybe how I've looked at something differently now because I have grown. Without the journal, I would forget things. I'll forget what I ate for breakfast today, but at least with the journal, I can see my own growth and my own progress. So I highly recommend doing journaling, even if it's just a quick little note. Woke up in a great mood today. Yay. Or, wow, I just saw something on television that reminded me, and write down whatever it is it reminded you of. And that may be important later on.
I really like that a lot. And I was just looking at YouTube since we're live streaming over from Zoom there, and a bunch of folks are joining us right now. Um, and it's so weird because when I looked at who's joining us on YouTube on my phone, the screen turned pink for a second. And pink is the color of unconditional love and compassion. It's a high frequency of the heart chakra. So I'm looking at my phone and I'm like, I'm seeing this objectively.
Yeah.
It's that there's so much energy out there and so much thirst for community. So yeah, journaling for sure. It's got to be a top tip of our 5 today, because you can look back over the journal if you're having a bad day. You can look back and go, oh, I got that sign that day. That was cool. You can see patterns and trends and how you receive information, which is also cool. I think you gave a great explanation of journaling. And again, it's really pretty cool that something major as a tragedy that happens in your life directed you to a spiritual practice that has deepened your connection with that loved one, your son. So, Matt and your journal and you are very, very connected. It's pretty cool.
It is. It works out quite well. And, when my son sends me signs, I remember to write that down in a journal because next week I won't remember. But when I read the journal later, it's like, oh, yeah, those bluebirds flew up again. Oh, my gosh, that is so cool. Thank you, Matt. So it's important.
Well, the next one that we have is to experiment. And that means get out of your comfort zone. And for a lot of people, they get scared. They get a feeling of like, I don't know if I really want to try working with ruins or a pendulum. I don't know if I want to have a past life regression because, like, what if I find out I was a rotten person or something like that? And as a trained and college certified hypnotherapist, I can tell you that you don't find out anything that your personality is not ready to experience here in this world. And other people are, I don't want to do a practice reading. Don't make me do a practice psychic reading or a practice medium reading because I might fail. And so experimenting is not only important, but it's the way you learn about your own abilities, whether it works out really well for you or not. And sometimes you surprise yourself. In fact, a lot of times our students really surprise themselves. We had a recent exercise where we paired them off in Zoom in rooms to do a psychic exercise of seeing something in the other person's home, seeing rooms and describing them. And every single person came back and said, I didn't want to do this. I was scared of being wrong. And there was not one person that said it didn't work, which was really, really cool. And I thought, as we're talking about experimenting, people going out and seeing all of these practices as a buffet to choose from, I think since you're our remote viewing queen, Diane, you might talk about the remote viewing experience and how that plays into developing abilities.
Okay. The remote viewing, which is a term that's been bandied about for several decades, and it sounds a little bit daunting when you first hear it. What does that mean? We, in our classes, were approaching that from two perspectives. The first is there's kind of a scientific methodological look at remote viewing where you're assign something called a target, and your task is to try to go and see that target, but you're not seeing it exactly for what it is. You're not given a target that might be a barn, and you're seeing a barn, but you're getting some kind of impression about it. Doing that kind of an exercise and doing it a few times repeatedly gets you into a frame where you can go and actually experience something outside of your body. This then morphs into what we would do as a psychic person, in which we can go out of our body and view people's homes like we did in the exercise in the class, or we can view things that are happening somewhere else. We can be outside of ourselves and connect with that consciousness, that web of thought that is out there. So the remote viewing is just a tool to help us tune up our own psychic abilities and get better at going outside of ourselves and seeing things in a different modality.
And you are really good at it. I'll say it again. And I love when our students are, again, kind of scared to try it out, and you walk them through that and do the experiments in the class. But there are lots of remote viewing teachers. Our own United States government has used remote viewing to try to locate certain things during times of gathering intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
All these things help you trust your clairs. And that's the next one, trusting your clairs. So when we talk about the clairs, what if there's somebody here that are like, what's a clair? I don't think there are that many people that would follow this channel or listen to Carefree and Conscious that haven't heard of the clairs. But clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, claircognizance. Clair is a French word for clear. And these abilities work through the physical body, even though it's your spiritual ability, it's using the body so that you feel things. You feel things in the heart. The throat is the doorway for clairaudience to hear things. The brow is a doorway to have clairvoyance, clear seeing. And the crown chakra above the head is the doorway for clear knowing. And so what we're really saying with trust your clairs is trust what you get, pay attention to what's getting your attention, and act upon it. So if, let's say, I have a gut feeling, it's your power, it's your fire in the belly, it's your center of personal power. If you get a gut feeling you need to check the airline to see if your plane's going to run late, check that airline. We're talking about following through with those feelings, those knowings. All of a sudden, a sentence pops in your head. I better call my brother. Follow through. And then you can go back to your journal and make a note about what happened, just the date. I had this feeling, I had this knowing, I heard this song in my head, it reminded me to do this, follow through, make a little note in that journal. The only way to get the trust is to follow through and see what happens. And we're not saying like if you hear something, and this is true, Diane, I had somebody one time hear in their head and tell me later that they heard go ride the escalator 100 times at Nordstrom.
Okay.
Yeah, right. And so to me, that sounded like confabulation or monkey mind. Why? Well, at the time I asked this person, how were you feeling when that happened? And they said, my anxiety was really high. The true voice, the true inner voice, the true voice of intuition can come through with a lot of compassion and love or neutral. But if it comes in all freaked out and panicked, or if it tells you to do something bizarre, I wouldn't follow through on it. I wouldn't trust it as intuition, but I would question it. I would do an inquiry with myself. Is it helpful, hopeful, and healing? Does it make sense? But if you want trust, right? That's the number one need, that when people sign our intake form and come for a class of any kind, especially the E.S.P class, they'll say, I just want to trust what I'm getting. I just want to know I can trust. And that's practice. And it's like, if you trust, the trust comes. What do you think, Diane?
I think, yeah, you have to learn how to trust, and it does take practice. And your example there of riding an elevator 100 times at Nordstrom's, if you took it at face value and you said, okay, I guess I have to, and you go to Nordstrom's and you're riding up and down, counting 100 times, what have you really learned? Nothing, because that's not what the message was. You have to go inside and try to discern, what could that mean? What is the analogy to riding an elevator 100 times at Nordstrom's? So there may be a deeper meaning. So just because intuition says to do something that's a little crazy out there, think about it and do some discernment. Just off the bat, I'd say maybe this is a person who is worried because they're spending too much money on clothes, and they need to kind
Yeah,
of temper it down,
that could
but
be. Sure.
there's a reason to have that come in. Just think about it, pull back and ask yourself, what did that mean? What could that be? What does that represent? And the answers will come clearer and clearer as you practice this.
So it's really about sitting with the information a little
Mhm.
bit. I think a lot of the challenges that our students will have is that it's almost like they want the giant billboard to just appear right there and tell them exactly what to do, or the billboard just appears and there's their spirit guide with what name shall I call you, and or the billboard says, yes, take that job and sell your house and blah blah blah, and here's the dates and here's the amounts. We want what we want, and we understand, the heart wants what the heart wants, and we have responsibilities in this physical world, but our higher selves, our spiritual teams, have bigger plans for
Mhm, mhm.
us. And you'll hear, you have no idea what great things that the source, God, has in store for you. And I use source, God, um, divinity, it's as this beautiful mystical power that lives in all of us and through all of us. And we do get this insular vision, this little tunnel that we see through, and I've got to have this, and here's when I have to have it. So letting go of the how and the when of the desires and the goals, but just taking a step each day to work yourself further towards it is real helpful, hopeful, and healing. Now, we use that 3H, helpful, hopeful, and healing, a lot when we teach. And that was from Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet, who said, when you use your intuitive abilities, when you tune into the Akasha, you should do it with a standpoint of, you want helpful, hopeful, and healing information. So that's where we're coming from, rather than trying to predict a future. You can look at potentials. What do you say to someone who tells you they want to take a class and they expect to have all their clairs when they finish that class? They should all be at max power. How do you temper people's expectations and encourage them at the same time, but not like we have to be realistic, right? What do you think?
Well, there's a variety of ways to approach that. When somebody is such an eager beaver, they feel like if I take a class, I am going to excel when I get out of it. Well, we all have different abilities. We all have different ways of learning. In order to reach a high goal, we have to put a lot of work and effort into it. So you don't just take a class and say, listen to a lecture and, do a little bit of the work and then expect to be, super duper high, running intuitive at the end of it. I think some of us have abilities that need a little bit of extra work to get us to a higher level. But I do believe that everybody can learn something from a class, from a course, that you could come in, for instance, you could come in at a first grade level and you may end up in the coursework at a third grade level or a junior high, or you may have a college degree when you finish. It just depends on your abilities and how much work you put into it and what your special strengths and maybe some of your weaker areas are. What are you going to do to make that happen to reach that college level, that college degree? Not everybody who goes to school ends up with a college degree, although many people would love to. You've got to put in the work and you've got to have some of those abilities that are coming at you and you're working with them and building up your strength. So I just encourage people, fine, shoot for the highest goal, but do understand that you will reach closer to what you want. And maybe you'll reach that highest goal, but at least you're going to be better off than when you started. If you do the classes, you do the work, you show the interest, you'll be better off.
And I really am a proponent of memorizing those 7 major chakras, the colors associated with them, the clairs, the spiritual abilities that are associated with them, and practicing auras. And one way that you can practice with the aura right now is to first off get yourself grounded and centered. You might do that with cleansing breaths in the intention that your heart is open. And you can start building up the energy between your hands and then just stare between your fingers for a while until you kind of let your eyes go out of focus until you can see the light around your fingers. It will be just barely there. But I mean, there are ways to practice working with the energies. If you have a cat or dog or horse, a pet, their energies can be very easy to tune into. You can feel their field, or you can send a thought to them telepathically and see what you receive back. And that can come to you as an auric type of color that flashes in your mind or a pattern. I just feel like the spirit world and our higher self needs language with which to communicate with us. So, for example, yes, I am clairaudient, but I don't always see an aura objectively, meaning I don't always see, like, for example, yellow around a person. I'll just feel the color yellow or know the color yellow. If I do see it, it'll be like a flash, like a daydream in my mind's eye for 2 seconds. But a lot of times I will see objectively, and I will see, like it's an object in the room where I could go up and touch that energy. I can tune in and I can tune out. But I do believe that everybody, once they learn the significance and a language around the chakras, then they'll start to pick up. Like you can train yourself to shake someone's hand, someone you haven't met before, and in your mind, what's their energy? And let's say it's orange. Orange, the word orange could pop into your head, or you see orange in your mind's eye for the split second, and you know that relates to the sacral chakra. They're in their creative mode. These things can work to where, like, I would know if a dog was not feeling well because I could see muddy color or feel or even hear the word muddy aura in my mind. So what's been your experience with the aura? Have you yourself seen objectively, or do you see or feel? What's it like for you? And I think this is important because you're in the category of people who say, I wasn't born with these abilities, even though you were, they didn't emerge until later in life.
Right. Well, honestly, I don't see the colors when I am trying to do an auric reading. I will try, it's like, well, do I see anything? But what I do is feel, I sense. Yeah, it's just like I could be looking at someone and I'm getting a lot of blue, and it's like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And then I'm interpreting what that might mean to me and to them. And so when I sense blue about someone, it could be that they're a very calm person, that they love peace over anything else. They don't like to get engaged in conflicts. It's whatever it is that I'm picking up through my own feelings when I am trying to read somebody's aura. So I have a hard time seeing, the tears and the other colors in an aura, but I'm just sensing it. I'm picking up something about that person. And if I share it, I'm often right. So that's kind of how I work. I just don't see the auras. I can see a glow, I can see a halo, that etheric body, but I'm not seeing it in colors for the most part. It's more of just a glow of energy when I'm looking and focusing.
And knowing that even I, born clairvoyant, don't always see it like it's in the room with me. That's what objective clairvoyance means. I
Mhm.
hope that that makes everybody who's interested in sensing auras more comfortable, because it's an internal sight, a feeling, a knowing, and like I said, if you've learned the language around it, just the word can pop into my mind. Like for example, to me, my phone rings and I'm like, what kind of energy? And just from the color I receive, I've got like a code to that. That brings me to people saying, do I need to learn certain numbers because the numbers mean something? Well, the numbers mean what they mean to you. So anytime you're learning something in the intuition field and you're incorporating into your life, your higher self, that part of you that's always in our home, and your spiritual team are going to use your brain, your head, what's stored in there is like a database to communicate with you. So if to me, when I see 333, 333 on the clock, 333 pops up in different places, to me, that has one meaning. It might mean something else to somebody else. To me, it's, yep, everything's right on track. Everything's going for you the way that it's supposed to be going. No changes needed right now. That developed over time to know that meaning. I would see 3s and 33s growing up a lot and not know why. And I figured it out because I wrote it down, because I kept track of it, because I paid attention. And so if you learn the 7 chakras, root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, brow, you learn colors associated with them. You learn what's been traditionally the abilities associated with them. Then you've got a language that your higher self and your team can use to communicate things to you about situations, about other people, about yourself, about the choices, about the physical health of your person, or even your plants, your animals. Is like, just spend 20 minutes memorizing. And that's another thing too, is you do have to do the work. And this is not one of the 5 tips, we've covered those, but it's doing the work. Every video you watch, every book that you read has a cumulative effect, right, Diane? It's like it all adds
Yeah.
up. Can you
Yep.
speak to like um, some of the things you've seen maybe with students in terms of, how they've changed during their studies, or things they've realized or surprised themselves with? And I think we'll leave folks with a high note of some of the little miracles we've seen.
Okay. I'm blessed to be able to speak to each of our students one-on-one, do a little bit of mentoring. And a couple of the things that do tend to come up in our discussions is when they started the program and they're listening to our lectures in the early things that we were talking about and then started doing any of the exercises, they were nervous. They thought maybe I can't do this. I'm a little afraid. I don't trust. We go through the exercises, we bring them the information, and one of the most important things I feel that we have stressed is whenever you're doing an exercise, whenever you're trying to tune into somebody, something, someone, you try to move from your head to your heart. Don't think, but feel. Feel what is coming in. And when they shift from here to the heart, it seems to work. It helps make things flow. That energy is coming in and out of the heart when you move that thinking part aside. So I think that's very important. I have found that nearly every student that I have spoken to so far has really enjoyed the interactions and the exercises. We have paired them up in at least 3 different scenarios, if not more, where they're doing exercises one-on-one, and they feel scared at first, a little bit nervous. They're not sure if I can do this, but they go ahead and jump in and try. And when they come out of that exercise, what they are sharing with us and with some of the things they've written to us is, oh my gosh, I didn't think I could do that. I feel so happy that I was able to fill in the blank, whatever the exercise was. So we're building up their confidence a little bit at a time. And even though they may be nervous at the beginning, once they jump in and they, practice with someone else and pick up on someone else's energy or home or whatever that exercise is, they're building up that trust, and they know that it's not all up here, that they are feeling something. And I know that it's pretty exciting to see that come through with these students. I haven't had anyone yet who said, I'm just going nowhere. Everybody is building up their little confidence, or big confidence, as the case may be.
Yeah, I've got, gosh, over 15 years now in either teaching mediumship, psychic development, and now the mentoring. And I think what gets me every time is the pleasant surprise that people have. They'll come in and say, I thought I had this ability, but you know what? This other one's a lot stronger for me. So I'm going to work on that for a while. And they go from this sense of I can't to I want to see what I can. And for me, I come from a corporate background and also university, working with the executive MBA program. And then you come from being a teaching assistant at a university in also a graduate program. The difference between working with the students that are on a degree program is that these folks that we work with now aren't just trying to check things off on a to-do list. Yeah, they're going to have a to-do list because we're serious about, complete as many assignments as you can. They're not hard. They're just putting things into practice. And you've hired us to give you some discipline and information, but also have fun. So, don't make it onerous. But we get to see the change, the before and after. We get to see, okay, now I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go halfway across the world and go to this silent retreat or whatever it's going to be. It's almost like whether it's with us or any teacher, once you make that commitment that I'm ready to let my light shine more brightly, this new world opens up. And then I want to speak to the folks watching that are like, well, how am I going to pair up with somebody if I can't take a class right now for whatever reason? Or, your people are out there. And if you look for development circles, if you look for book clubs that are on this subject matter, they're out there. One that I would recommend to you would be to go to Victor Zamet's website, Victor and Wendy Zamet of the Friday Afterlife Report. If you go to victorzamet.com/Zoom, that will take you right to the Zoom groups that they have for studies and presenters. I'm one of their presenters. I'm on once or twice a year at least. Your community's out there. If you put a little effort into it, you can find people to practice with. And I think that axiom of when the student is ready, the teacher will come is really, really true. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm Susanne Wilson, and Diane, is there a final thought that perhaps you would like to leave people with that are wondering if they're intuitive? I've had people say to me, I don't have an intuitive bone in my body. And then we get to see that change. What would you say to encourage folks that don't want to fail? They're too scared to take that first step. What would you say?
Well, a couple of things. One, you never fail if you try. You have to try. You just have to try. And you'll be surprised that by making that effort, by making the commitment to take that first step and then the second, that you will succeed. Think about how you learned how to maybe ride a bicycle, right? It was really hard at first. Oh, I can't do this, Dad. I can't do this. But pretty soon, there you are riding the bicycle, and your dad is not running behind you holding the bike up. You have learned something. So think of it that way. You're going to ride that bicycle into being more intuitive, to build up your clairs, to have some more abilities. You just have to take those initial steps and trust. You have it in you. It's always been there. We're all spiritual souls, and we are all interconnected, and we can all connect with each other. We just have to give it a try and never say never.
I
Say,
like
I
that.
can. Yes.
Yeah. Well, never say never. It is interesting. I also have heard people say, I would rather try and have fun than not try and always wonder. And I have to say, when you get to the other side of life, you want to be able to look back and say, I squeezed every bit of experience out of that life that I could. So do you want to also mention your website and both of our books
Oh,
and
sure.
sign us off?
Okay. So my book is Living and Loving Life All Day, Every Day. It's about my son's transition and the things I had to go through to process that and where it led me eventually to working with Susanne Wilson. My website is my name, DianeCalderon.com. You can go there and see a little more information about the book. I have some interviews that I've done on there, so I appreciate if you would love to visit and see what I'm all about. And then Suzanne's book is Soul Smart, What the Dead Teach Us About Spirit Communication. Her website is carefreemedium.com. Tons of information there. And because you're looking at this on YouTube, if you had not already subscribed to Suzanne's YouTube channel, please do. She has so much information there. It'll blow your socks off.
You see why I have Diane do the sign off. She's so good, been so good to me for so many years now. And I'm just thrilled that you're not teaching the university area, but working with me now because we make an incredible team. And so, guys, we're sending you love with a capital L. That's love from our heart space to yours. Not like how I love pizza, Diane loves tortilla chips, but big love from our heart to yours. You've been listening to Carefree and Conscious Live. Visit our website, carefreemedium.com, or find us on social media at Carefree Medium. Thanks for supporting Carefree and Conscious.